Hello, good evening and a warm welcome to Turning Point for ITN Sri Lanka. Turning Point is a discussion program from ITN Sri Lanka and broadcasting from Monday to Friday, 6 to 6:30 p.m., all things being equal. And it is, as I say once again, from ITN Sri Lanka. Turning Point. And our guest this evening is, of course, Mr. Dhananath Fernando from the award-winning Advocato Institute. And we're delighted to welcome him as our first guest on Turning Point for ITN Sri Lanka. Good evening, Dhananath, and thank you very much for being our guest.
Good evening, Faraz. Thank you very much for having me.
Thank you, and it's wonderful to be on air again, and many grateful thanks, of course, to ITN for their decision on making this all happen. Economy is what I keep hearing when I travel around. I've traveled around intensely in the last 6-7 months while I've been waiting. And almost everywhere I went, people were talking economy, the high cost of living. I asked people in the central province. I asked people in Anuradhapura, in Dambulla, in Trincomalee, Jaffna, down south. They all said the same thing. So, Dhananath, let's start by asking you, how has our economy fared in the last 2 years from those, let's call it, the dark days? And they were really literally dark because we had power cuts.
Absolutely, Faraz. So, from all indicators, our economy is slowly stabilizing. So, for common man's understanding, what do I mean by stabilizing is, it doesn't mean the cost of living is coming down, it doesn't mean that the life is getting easy or easier. It is basically from that stormy period, things are just settling down. It is like if someone meets with an accident, you are urgently being rushed to the accident ward, and now but you are still breathing, you are lucky that you are safe. But it doesn't mean that you are dynamic or all the diagnostic have been done. You are making sure that you are breathing and you have another lifeline, is what it all means.
Well, I want, for the benefit of our Sinhala speaking viewers, I just want to ask you this in the Sinhalese that I can, and that is, ඒ කියන්නේ දැනනත් මහා ජනතාව දැන් පුරුදු වෙලාද තියෙන්නේ මේ බඩු මිල වැඩි වෙලා පුරුදු වෙලා එහෙන් මෙන් කපලා ෂේප් එකේ ගෙනියනවා දැන්.
හරියට හරි. ඒ කියන්නේ හොඳ පාරක් වැදුනට පස්සේ දැන් මේකට පොඩ්ඩක් අපි කියන පත්තියන් වෙනවා කියලා පොඩ්ඩක් මේකට ඇඩ්ජස්ට් වෙලා තියෙන්නේ. ඒක තමයි දැන් ඇත්තටම වෙලා තියෙන්නේ. හැබැයි මේක ඇවිල්ලා ෆරාස් වැඩි කල් ඉන්න පුළුවන් තැනකුත් නෙමෙයි. මේක හරියට ඇවිල්ලා අපි ඩොග් ගාලා ලිඳකට වැටුණාට පස්සේ පල්ලෙහා වතුරේ ගිලිලා මැරෙන්න වෙනවා. ඒ නිසා අපි කරන්නේ ටක් ගාලා ලිඳ බැම්මේ චුට්ටක් උඩට එනවා. ඇවිල්ලා හැබැයි දැන් මේ බිත්තිය තමයි අල්ලන් ඉන්නේ. But you can't hold it for too long.
So in 2 years we've done well.
In 2 years, on certain aspects, we have done well.
අපිට තෙල් තිබුණේ නැහැ, ගෑස් තිබුණේ නැහැ, ඉලෙක්ට්‍රික් එක කපලා තිබුණේ පැය 10කුත් ගියා සමහර දවස්වල. So we had all those challenges. But now those basic things are there.
Correct.
Right? Maybe we are not using the same amount of power, the same amount of petrol. ඒ ඔක්කොම අඩු කරලා පුළුවන් තරම් අඩු කරලා අපි ගමනේ යනවා. 2 years. How much longer before we can see more dollars coming in and our life getting a bit better? What do we have to do?
Yeah, so the next step is to grow the economy. Now it's stabilizing, as you very correctly mentioned. There are no shortages and the power is back. Things are slowly again rolling back and businesses are picking up. So that stability is there, but this is also not a place that we can
we can't wait forever.
We can't wait forever because economy needs to grow. That means the size of the economy needs to increase, because then only the income levels will go up, where people can catch up with their lifestyles that they were used to enjoy.
It's a time when we need to make difficult choices, difficult decisions. Some of the decisions that have been made are clearly not the politicians' first choice. Raising taxes is like almost a no-no. But would you think, in your analysis and so on, Dhananath, that the public have now got used to the fact that we are now paying the right amount of money for 1 litre of petrol? ආණ්ඩුවෙන් ගානක් ගෙවන්නේ නැහැ. මාකට් රේට් එකෙන් තමයි අපි දැන් ගෙවන්නේ. Is that?
Yes, I think people have slowly adjusted for us, but I think it's very painful having said that, because every 30th of the last day of the month, people know that there will be a fuel revision. And even the electricity, when I spoke to businessmen, they said now at least there's some predictability, because at least I know every quarter my electricity prices will adjust. I can basically, they can also check it, because if the rains were good, they know, okay, that means we have utilized the hydropower, and they expect what is going to happen for the electricity prices. I think moving forward, when you have that predictability, they will also invest money on basically identifying understanding the trend and to do better costing. So that front is, I think that is better. I think everyone has adjusted, because otherwise by subsidizing fuel, you are basically favoring someone who are well off, who can basically afford to pay more, because you are basically incentivizing the less fuel efficient, it could be your vehicle, it could be anything, by trying to keep it below the market rate. So it's important that we have it at the market rate, because ultimately that if you are making a loss, that loss anyway has been passed always to the taxpayer, importantly to the most vulnerable people in the society. So that has to be avoided, which is, I think, in the right direction, but you cannot stop from here. We have to grow the economy. That's the only way out. We have to grow out from this crisis.
But to grow out from this crisis, a lot of people in our country, the trade unions and everybody, they love it when you say we want more money. But I find that they don't talk about, okay, give us more money, but we'll pick more tea. Productivity. Isn't that an issue?
Absolutely, for us. That's the most important issue for the next 3 to 4 years, because for a couple of reasons. Now we are at the last stage of the debt restructuring. In my opinion, we could have done it better, but you cannot also wait for a long time, because that also adds to your cost. But however, after the debt restructuring, our interest rates will most likely be in the higher range. Basically, that means for someone to go and build a house, expand their businesses, cash may not be available as easy as it was used to, because the interest rates are high. When that happens, basically to grow the economy, it's a big challenge, because you basically cannot borrow money, invest on equipment, technology. So in that front, the only lever that is available is productivity. We have to do more with the same resources we had.
On that note, let's go for a quick break, and this is, of course, Turning Point. I'm in conversation with Mr. Dhananath Fernando, who is the CEO of the Advocata Institute. We'll see you on the other side of the break. Welcome back to the Turning Point for ITN in Sri Lanka. Our guest is Mr. Dhananath Fernando from Advocata Institute, who is the CEO there, COO. So Dhananath, productivity is important. How do you persuade people to produce more?
That's the challenge. The only option available is for us. Let's take few industries as an example. Let's take coconut. For an example, the number of nuts that can be plucked from a Sri Lankan coconut tree is about 60, but the average globally is about 100.
Right.
So, but you know, from 62 we cannot go like to 100 overnight, but we need to do is at least increase it from 60 to probably 66 or 70. That can be done by basic discipline, like you have to take care of the trees, you have to have proper fertilizer. With that you can basically increase with the same resources. You are not going to increase the arable land, you are just have the same number of coconut trees, same labor, same investment. It's just a little bit of extra effort can improve the output. So, I think on across all industries that first stretch has to be done to improve the productivity or the output by about like 5 to 10%, which will have a big boost in the economy on one side. The second thing is, you know, in even in O level or in A level, there are few factors of production: land, labor, capital, and entrepreneurship. So, the second option is the land option, because 82% of the land is owned by the government. I think there is a program that is already going, that the government gives some of these titles to the people, which is I think in the right direction. That land has to be given away to people, investors who can really bring the money, because that has value. That is the second option. The third option is improving the labor productivity, that is by upskilling them, because then you can bring better technology, better know-how, and improve the productivity. So, those are the two options or levers that is available at the moment.
So, this is perfect. You're leading me right into this. The availability of capital, the ability to borrow money in the rural areas, in the farming areas, the smallholders for their 1-2 acres, whatever, is very difficult. They can't get into the mainstream banking. So, but they have lived in this land for maybe 15-20 years, families, generational. So, now they are getting the title deed. They can take the title deed and go to the bank, mainstream bank, and borrow money at current rates, maybe 16-18%, whatever it is, but certainly not at these guinea poly rates. Maybe we should say that in Sinhalese. දැන් මේ ඔප්පු තියෙනවනේ, දැන් ආණ්ඩුවෙන් දීලානේ තියෙන්නේ. දැන් ඒව අරන් බැංකුවකට යන්න පුළුවන්. පොලිය මේ ගිනි පොලි මුදලාලිට 10%
මාසෙට 10%ක්.
මාසෙට 10%ක්. කියන්නේ අවුරුද්දට 120යි. හරි. දැන් ඒව ඕනේ නැහැ. බැංකුවෙන් 10%ක් 18ක් හරි කියමුකෝ 20ක් කියලා ගන්න පුළුවන්. So, that's better, right?
Absolutely, Faraj. That is better, because then you have access for capital, because the main problem for a lot of farmers were they do not have anything bankable or they do not have a collateral. So, now you have the asset, and then you can take a loan keeping that asset, and the banking system can also now have a new asset base. So, with that farmers can invest, and I know there are concerns that okay, what if the farmers sell this land? I think it's still better, because people will, whoever who is selling it will get some money, and that ultimately that land will end up with someone who can make it more productive. So, when it becomes productive, he has to create, of course, the job opportunities will be created and more income will be generated. Let us say that land being sold and someone is going to put a small restaurant. So, a restaurant means there has to be a chef, there has to be people who are serving, there has to be an IT guy who do the billing and the network. So, that means you are expanding the economy, which is the right thing. And now what happens? There is land owned by the government, no restaurant, no farming, nothing. The farmer just trapped there without being able to invest it properly. So, in that sense, it is, I think, definitely in the right direction, but we have to have sizable lands where the investment can be attracted. I think that is being slightly tapped with the economic transformation bill. I have my concerns on the power concentration and some other tax concession power that was given on one or two few individuals. But however, giving the land for private sector to build those investment zones and attracting investment, I think it is in the right direction to grow the economy. Those are necessary reforms, though it is not popular.
True, but you are empowering the people to do business, and the government doesn't need to do business. They can make it easy for the people to do business. So we've always said this, that the government has no business being in business, but the government business is to make it easy for the public. So the transport links and the the roads and all the facilities should be there. The government should make sure that fertilizer is available and so on. So it seems to me, but from your specialist point of view, do you feel that we are moving in the right direction?
Some of the reforms are in the right direction for us. I think where we are lacking is on the anti-corruption front. That is a necessary need to address. Even now the election, the asset declarations has to come. I think the COBAC has taken the decisions in the right direction. Now the asset declarations are available for public. That's an area that they have to address. But however, on empowering people and government taking a step back or a back seat from the business is very, very important, because in any business for us, government has a 30% share. Even if I open a restaurant, I have to pay 30% taxes. That is the government share. So if the government gets like 1/3 of any business of profits, that's only profits.
Yeah.
And I have to, they collect that, of course, pass to the consumer or the customer 18% VAT out of the revenue.
Yeah.
And if I employ someone who is earning more than 100,000 rupees, that person has to pay the APIT or the pay. So in that sense, the government collects a lot of cash every time when the money circulates. So the government has no need to again jump back and do business and take the risk. The people can do it, and people have the ability to do it, because the government already has it is better for the government when people make more and more profits, but what you need to do is having a proper system and ability to monitor them, and then have a conducive business environment, because that will bring investment. Also the government will be better off by just do nothing, earning 30% of profits additionally to the 18% VAT and so many other taxes. So that's how I see it, and the land is definitely an important node in this entire network. And the anti-corruption is what we need to address afterwards, because if there are so many leakages, it will not create a level playing field, and that's important area that we have to address.
And on that note, let's go for a quick break. This is the Turning Point for ITN Sri Lanka. See you on the other side of the break. And welcome back to the Turning Point for ITN Sri Lanka. Our guest this evening is Mr. Dhananath Fernando. Dhananath, so basically you make your point about about government collecting all the revenue and so on, provided that they can collect all this revenue, because collection is also a problem. But once you do that, what you're saying is that they must streamline the procurement processes and this expenditure.
Absolutely, for us, because without streamlining the expenditure, and as you very correctly said, the procurement and also some of these licenses, because that's definitely a way for corruption when you try to issue licenses for everything, because that's definitely, you are creating a gatekeeper, and then we know the process going on the other side. So those are the areas that definitely we have to streamline. I think with new payment gateways and new payment platforms, even the revenue collection can be streamlined, because one problem we have at the moment is we do not know how much you spend. You don't have the connectivity between your assets, even because it's a self-declaration process that we have. So those things can be streamlined.
How can, if you remember, when during the crisis, the fuel crisis and so on, the government introduced this QR code, and to me it's a bit like the Overton window, the window of opportunity. Previously, people were a bit blasé about, but then everybody had to use the QR code, and actually the QR code was used by the Petroleum Ministry and so on to good use, because they knew where all the dispatchers shed was using 2 browsers, but this other one was using only half. So there's no point sending him 2. And so people got used to it. So at the same time, that Overton window was to get the people used to using, the digital side of life. And can't that be applied to our taxes?
Can be for us. That's my worry and also my disappointment on the other side, because if you recall, there was a big announcement when you are registering a vehicle, you have to give your TIN number, and now that is not in place. I got few licenses last week. Your TIN number is not required.
Not required.
So I think those are the areas, because just having the TIN number in the revenue license doesn't make sense if you do not have the digital network where you enter that TIN number and everything connects together, so then anyone can see what's your asset or what are the number, how many number of vehicles that you have, so on and so forth. So I think that's an area that definitely we have to strengthen, and definitely the digital is the way forward, because it's easy to integrate the databases and it's easy to monitor. I think as long as we and also we have to slowly move to the digital payment platforms as well, because then the traceability of money is very clear, and we need not to too much, I mean, we have to worry about the money laundering and things like that, but then the banking system can bring the safeguards where people's concerns about money being stolen and taken away, all that can be contained, because you have the trace of how the money came in and how the flow of the money. So that is definitely the way forward, but I think we have to accelerate and shift gears, because if we do not collect the revenue as we are supposed to do, the burden will always be put for the people who are already paying it and they are already tired. So we should avoid it at any cost.
So it appears that Sri Lanka is slowly but surely making the change.
Absolutely, we are in the right direction. A lot of areas to be improved, because as I mentioned, the inflation is at historically low levels. The reserves are at about 5.6 billion from where we were, and the debt restructuring at the last stretch, and the economy is after few quarters now it's at least at the growing direction. And some reforms are late, especially the state-owned enterprises reforms hasn't taken place, which is another disappointment, but few steps are in the right direction, and all in, it's not me saying it, the World Bank, the IMF, the Asia Development Bank, everyone has observed that it's stabilizing. But as I mentioned, we should not celebrate it too early, because stabilizing is not the end of this road. It's still a very interim step in this entire long journey. If we don't shift the gears to growth, this is not a place that we can stay for long.
So end of the day, as we come to the end of our first program for Turning Point, at the end of the day, Sri Lanka is making the change, but we need stability of policies and a commitment to carry on in the same direction without taking the side roads here and there.
Exactly. So whoever who will take the driving seat, I do not think there's a lot of options available, because the growth path is the only available path, and already there's been the framework being drawn by the IMF, and we have to adjust to that, and there are clear timelines and guidance given, especially in the IMF the governor's diagnostic report, even on anti-corruption, what needs to be done, who is responsible, what is the timeline, is very easily and clearly given. So that's the way forward, whoever who comes to the driving seat, in my view.
Thank you very much, Dhananath, Fernando, for being on Turning Point.
Thank you very much for having me.
And that's the way it was on Turning Point today, our initial program for ITN Sri Lanka. Thank you. We will broadcast Monday to Friday, live usually, 6 to 6:30. And if you need to send us questions, you can. As usual, it's 0772 300 305. But thank you for watching us, and take care, and God bless you.